A good newspaper doesn't just speak to itself, it speaks to the nation. And speaking of that, we have to check the stories that are breaking. Welcome to this very segment of the newspaper headlines and analysis on Dominion Television, where we bring the top stories breaking and developing across the news platforms we have in the country, Nigeria. The Punch newspapers will be Vanguard newspaper and some other papers that we can reel out this morning. Stories are breaking, particularly acting Agbamuche, also a story to consider this morning. We check into the stories that are breaking. Tinubu is on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. What again? Some would ask. But again, it's about the countdown to 2027. Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. It seems like the conversation is getting faster. Of course, yesterday there was a stepping down by Yakubu, who steps aside as president consults Council of State's selection process on the spotlight. That is also in the conversation. Should it be the president to pick the new INEC chair? Maybe we'll get to know now. Away from that story, still on the top corner of the Punch newspaper, displaced Borno residents recount Boko Haram invasion. A story you might want to check out this morning. Also right beside it, World Bank dismisses Nigeria's single-digit inflation target. Also another story worthy of read this morning. How Abbas intervention stalled minority leaders' impeachment is also a story to check out on the Punch newspaper this morning. Science Minister Naji resigns over alleged certificate forgery, a big one. We'll talk about all of those topics today. So interesting, so intriguing. Some would say we have to talk about it, definitely. Police pensioners rally for protest after talks collapse. Also on the Punch newspaper. Nigerian Tribune newspaper is where I'll go next now to read out some stories that are breaking right on that particular newspaper. Certificate scandal. Uche Naji resigns as minister, page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. You might want to check out that story. We'll talk about it briefly and we'll get into some of the stories. INEC Yakubu proceeds on terminal leave. That's on the top corner of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. New target regime. Federal government targets relief for 98% of workers. 98% of workers? Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Osun local government funds. Supreme Court reserves judgment in state suit against AGF. And Tinubu Right Senate withholds assent to 2 bills. Says federal government must prevent abuse of funds. That is also something to check out this morning. SANU, NASU to protest October 9. That's tomorrow, over federal government failure to meet demands. Also something to check out this morning. The stories are quite filled with the Uche Naji and Tinubu's minister being accused of certificate forgery and a lot more. Dangote versus Pengersen is also trending on This Day newspaper this morning. This Day is giving us a story this day and is speaking to the Sanusi, Kuka, Ote, Peterside, others waiting in, say, unionism not licensed to cripple economy. And that's about the Dangote versus Pengersen story that's been in the know for a while and has been topical. We've been talking about that and we'll still keep our eyes on it. Imagine all eyes on Tinubu as INEC chair Yakubu bows out, Agbamuche Mbu now acting. And that story is something to also consider this morning. Daily Independent newspaper is where I would also lay claims on. And this morning, despite rising FX inflows, debt payments squeezing fiscal space. That story is on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper, as you can see on your screen. Finally, minister accused of certificate forgery resigns. That is also something to check out. 98% of Nigerians will be exempted from payee in 2026. That's coming from the taxman Oyedele Taiwo. That's what we'll check. Failure is not an option. We must compete, win. That's coming from ADC. Vows to change, our dated pattern of political class 7 itself. We'll take the analysis segment shortly, but that will be after this short break. Stay with us. And thank you for staying tuned this morning. Now getting into the analysis segments of newspaper headlines and analysis on Dominion Television. I'm joined with Honorable Eboseliume Ignatius Ofino. Good morning to you this morning.
Good morning, Anoluakbo.
It's so good to have you again.
I'm delighted to be here this morning.
So let's get into the stories. Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. Just yesterday, there was a report about, Yakubu stepping aside for the next person, and he claimed that he did that just to aid whoever is coming into this, to settle in fast, that according to him, that was what he said, that he's trying to do that so there could be a fast and easy transitioning for whoever is coming in to become the next chair. Meanwhile, there's an acting who is a female with so much in the pipe. If you check her credentials, so much to talk about, and she's also in the thick of things. She's in the know. She's within that particular frame of, conversation. So The question now is Tinubu is to pick new INEC chair this week. Definitely not the acting president. Of course, acting chairman, I mean to say, Edasagbamuche would not remain as the INEC chair, but someone else is going to come. Now, let's start from the conversation. Should it be the president's prerogative to choose whoever is coming in as the INEC chair? Or even if that is, does it not undermine the fact that those people can do, if you rub my back, I will rob yours? What do you make of all of this?
Thank you once again, Anu. There is one thing that is very germane when we are talking about nascent democracy. The election should be adjudged to be credible. So the electoral umpire should be adjudged to be someone that is just and unbiased. So there is a problem in Nigeria. That is why some of us are agitating that when it comes to issue of electoral reform, that is what is necessary for now. Constitutionally, the president has been saddled with that responsibility of nominating and appointing the INEC boss, though subject to ratification from members of the National Assembly. But Nigerians are saying that you cannot be a judge over your own case, that if there is going to be a free, fair, and just election in this country, that will be adjudged to be credible. The INEC chairman should not be appointed by the incumbent president. So there is an issue on ground. What stops the president starting a new precedence that I'm not going to nominate or appoint the INEC boss, that the time has come for us to do the needful? His name and legacy will go down in history as a president who established a good precedence. Now he's toiling the past, what he met on ground. There is one thing I keep saying, you have to be different from the rest people if you want to start a good precedence. So for now, you can see the president has been constitutionally saddled with that responsibility of appointing the INEC boss. But Nigerians are not happy with it. So the problem lies within the Electoral Act and the Constitution.
Sorry, you made mention of Nigerians not being happy. Are you happy about this?
No, I'm not happy about it. There is one thing I keep saying. We have three arms of government. We have the executive arm of government. We have the legislative arm of government. And we have what we call the judiciary, which is the third arm of government. And I believe in the separation of power. But the judiciary is not independent. The legislative arm of government has become a rubber stamp. Most of those we elected to be our representative, are they actually representing our interest? Sometimes when the president commits what we call impeachable offense, the so-called senators, they look the other way. So there is problem in this country. Our own version of democracy is not a good model in the world. So I feel that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu ought to have established a good precedence. Because for me, I will have allowed if the third arm of government, the judiciary, to have appointed the INEC boss. Instead of the president. Instead of the president. They must be seen to be independent. Though there is nothing like financial autonomy. You know, now when you come to issue of remuneration of the third arm of government, it is the executive arm of government that determines it too. So there's a problem in this country. So INEC should be truly independent. How do they get their fund? They can decide to get what we call international grants. You know, we have nations in the world that are interested in democracy. So whenever they see a country that is practicing democracy, they want to fund their electoral process. And mind you, the new INEC boss, whether a man or a woman, all eyes is on him or her concerning credible election, especially for 2027. We don't want the issue that happened during the days of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
That gets me to the question. I was going to ask the question again now. Should we just put, let's put the scorecard on the table now. Dogara, okay, I mean to say Yakubu, of course, INEC chairman, former INEC chairman, now former. He did a lot of things, and then when he was speaking to the press recently, he said he made sure to leave that seat because he wants this transition to be fast. And again, he mentioned some of the things he did. He was speaking to the issues of beavers. He was speaking to the advancement in technological, some of the technological advancement they also bought into, which is of course a thing. But we have to also consider how much was spent also for every election. How much was spent for, and is it enough? Can we put it side by side? Does it compensate what, I mean, what we should have as an electoral body should give the Nigerian state? And that's what I'm saying. So the question now is, let's put on the scorecard on the table to say, did Yakubu, did he do well?
To me, I will score him average. He's a professor of history and international studies.
Average, that's 5/10.
That's 5/10 or 50%. Because there was one thing, he promised Nigeria that during the 2023 election, there will be what called upload of results. And at the end of the day, the thing was stalled temporarily. How do you explain to Nigeria, why did you stop it midway? And it became a subject of controversy. Till date, some people still say that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not my president. I've heard a lot of Nigerians saying it. Not my president.
The 2023 election was biased.
Yes, it was biased. Who was responsible for that election, for the result upload to be stalled midway?
But they also gave their challenges.
So you cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy.
But they ruled out
and
their
biasness.
They ruled out their challenges to say we had problems with the network, and you could understand too if you go to some places.
That was
in Nigeria,
a conspiracy too.
Really?
It was a conspiracy. When we are talking about advancement in technology, we know there are bound to be limitations. Not the issue of election. The political destiny of a nation is at stake when it comes to issue of election. It talks about those who will control your destiny in the next 4 years. That is why my heart bleeds sometimes when I see some persons refusing to cast their vote. You have forgotten that you have those people in government, they control your political destiny for the next 4 years. So you have to be involved as a stakeholder. So for me, I score Professor Mahmood Yakubu 50% average, though he is a professor. And I say it over and over again, that you are a professor does not make you a good administrator. That you have first degree, masters and PhD does not make you a good administrator at all. But what you have to ask yourself, I want to leave a legacy that will continue to endure across every existing human generation. No wonder this man, Alexander the Great, said, you know what he said?
What?
He knew he was an emperor. He said, I met Rome in clay, but left it with marble. That's a great leader. What has Professor Mahmood Yakub left? There are questions to be asked. Can other nations of the world invite him for an international seminar on electoral reform? Let us be honest to ourselves. The same thing applies to Professor Jega.
Atahiru Jega.
Atahiru Jega. He was once a vice chancellor of one of the foremost universities in this country. He had a lot of academic record. But there is one thing about him. He was biased in the sense that during 2015 election, we were told that underage voters were being registered in the north. And Professor Atahiru Jega looked the other way.
All right, we might go on and on to talk about INEC because, of course, the elections is still, fast approaching, and we'll still talk about that in the course of our next broadcast and all of the programs we have. But let's move on to something quite interesting. Now, there's Uche Nnaji, who is the Minister of Science, has resigned recently. He's an embattled minister, like some have called him. Embattled Minister Uche Nnaji resigns after a lot of things. So certificate forgery was what they said to have been the case for his resignation. They said he has forged his certificate. This is not the first time we are seeing this in Nigeria, especially in the public office capacity. We've seen a lot of things. We've also seen allegations against the president, the current president, incumbent president of the country, Nigeria. We've had that conversation about some of his certificates not being original. And this is again another time. When can we leave this conversation finally and know that whoever we appoint is certificate forgery free?
The word integrity is relative. I can choose to be a honest person, and I can also choose to become what? A dishonest person. But for honesty, there must be a reward. For dishonesty, there must be a consequence. Now look at this man, a cabinet minister, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji, accused of what? Certificate forgery. That shows that he lied to the president, one. He lied to the nation, two. He lied under oath. Because before you are sworn in as a cabinet minister, you have to take a public oath. So he should be prosecuted according to the law for forgery and perjury, so that it will serve as a deterrent. The same thing applies in the academia too. We have a lot of falsification of age, even in the civil service. Falsification of age. Have you not heard about the issue of ghost workers? That is why the government decided to organize what we call verification exercise for workers. So there has been a lot of what? Dishonesty in the public sector in Nigeria. If you say you are a president, why should you indulge in what we call certificate forgery? Nobody should be adjudged or seen to be above the law. And we heard about the Chicago certificate scandal. The certificate scandal is still on, and President Donald Trump is interested in it. He's going to give Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu the shocker of his life in 2027.
Are you sure?
I'm on air. I'm saying it. During Joe Biden, Nigerian president was never invited to the White House, and my heart still bleeds till now. President Donald Trump refused to invite Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the White House.
All right.
There is something that is fishing, and I still say it again. President Donald Trump will give Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu a shocker concerning that Chicago certificate. I'm on air. I'm saying it.
All right.
I know what is going to happen.
I'll probably pen that down.
Yes, write it down.
2027 elections.
Yes.
All right. So let's move on to something else. But not moving on from this story still, you still have to question the fact that is this not an affront to the screening committee? Because if you say we keep having this case, what happened to those who are supposed to screen them? Are they so not supposed to be up and running, up and doing? Are they not supposed to be tagged and accurate to say, even if they are not 100% accurate, they should know that, oh, there's a chance of forgery in this certificate and all of these things. Can we do something? Can we hold on till we finalize the investigation?
INEC has been programmed to do the bidding of their tax master. Who? The incumbent president that appointed them. They know, INEC know the right thing to do.
So you know this was
so they are under pressure.
So this was
you
planned.
don't blame INEC, absolutely. But there is one thing you must know. If somebody wants to encourage you to do something that is bad, and you are a man of conscience, you decline and raise objection. And if you see that the pressure is too much, you resign honorably. That is what is done with Senator Klein. I resign based on what? Personal reason. It's not necessarily you expose the nation. Why you resign? Men of honesty will do that. There has been a lot of compromises. Sometimes I begin to ask myself, what are the screening committee actually doing? When you are screening the academic certificate of any political candidate, the first thing you have to do, because from aspirant you become a candidate, so the INEC has that job to screen their credential, their birth certificate. But don't be surprised, most of them keep doing what we call affidavit. So the judiciary itself is not honest enough. Sometimes, do you think it's easy for a governor to steal public funds? The director of finance is also culpable and accomplice it. It's not easy for a governor or for the president to steal public funds without connivance with the Minister of Finance.
Attorney General of the Federation.
And the Central Bank governor. At the state level, it's not easy. There must be a connivance with what? The Commissioner of Finance, the Director of Finance, and the bank executive too. They're all involved. So it's so sad. We need men and women that are refined in character to be in charge of what?
The screening committees.
The screening committee. At least one of them will say, no, this information you gave to us is false. Look at visa application. Most people are being denied visa today in America or UK. Do you know why? false information. That is why you were born in 1980. You said you were born in 1985. 10 years ago, you were born in 1984. This year, you are now born in 2001. Discrepancies. We need men and women that are honest. Because they are the one that will do what? Control our political world. Destiny. Now, government policies actually affect our lives as human beings. Do they not affect our life? When the president decided to remove the oil subsidy outrightly, it affected everything. That was what we call a multi-dimensional impact on everyone. Is there multiplier effect? Are we not seeing the multiplier effect? It affected those who voted APC. It affected those who did not vote. It affected those who voted against APC.
So, sorry, let's speak on something that affects you, affects me, and affects you particularly because you are big on education. I've known you for a while to be in the space of education and all that. So let's talk about SANU and NASU. So there's a threat of protests tomorrow over federal government's failure to meet the demands of ASU and SANU. I want you to, because you've been in the thick of things, I don't want to mention some of the things that you've done in the education sector, but help us. What do you make of this? Help us unpack this situation. SANU again, NASU again, planning to protect tomorrow.
Who is to blame? It's the government. You make a promise and you fail to fulfill your promise. Let me create a scenario. If you have a child and the child said, Dad, I want you to buy me a toy, a teddy bear. And Dad said, no problem. Junior, I'm going to buy you that toy today, but you are going to get it when I return back from work. The child will go about telling his friends, my daddy has promised to buy me a toy. You know, children, kids, my daddy has promised to buy me a toy. Even if the mother is there, dad has promised to buy me a toy. The first is that when that dad return back from work, get home, the child is expecting a teddy bear or a toy from the dad. And the child now said, Dad, good evening, sir. How was work today? Fine. Where is my toy? And dad is saying that, no, I don't have toy. There's no toy. Next time, do you think that child will ever believe his dad? Even if his dad is promising him everything, you know what the child is going to? That was what you said the other day. I don't know why adults are behaving like kids. Especially the government. Whatever you know you cannot be able to implement, don't promise. And there's one thing you must know. Those in the civil service, they are microcosm of the larger society. When you look at government revenue today, 80% of government revenue goes for expenditure. And when you are talking about expenditure, you are talking about salaries and wages and allowances for public office holder. Now, in the civil servant, those in the civil servant today, irrespective of the political party, they must be paid. Those in ministries, departments, and agencies of government, MDAs.
Yes.
Now, what about the rest Nigerians who are not fortunate to be civil servants? Some people are what we call private investors. We have those people who are artisans too, who should also benefit. They also benefit indirectly if those that are paid as civil servants patronize their service. Now, what I'm trying to drive at is this. When we are talking about salary, it's just only microcosm of the society that benefits from it. But when we are talking about capital projects, you want to build roads, you want to build airports, you want to build seaports, you want to build what we call healthcare centers, you want to build schools. Every one of us will benefit as a Nigerian citizen. Now, you are talking about Senior Staff Association of Nigerian University. You are talking about Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU. The same thing applies to ASU too, Academic Staff Union or universities. They are making a demand. Now we have the issue of university autonomy. The ASU has that autonomy to elect who becomes the vice chancellor. But now, what about the issue of financial autonomy? How many of the vice chancellor today can attract what we call international research grants for their university to complement government effort? And government is not even funding what we call academic research. That has been a problem. I want to appeal to SANU and NASU not to go on strike. Because if you are going on strike, it will affect the academic program of all the students. and it will not even speak well. And idle hand is the workshop of the devil.
All right.
So it's so sad. I'm appealing. The government must implement that demand. If you are not going to even implement that demand, out of 10 demand, why not implement, let me say, 5 or 6 as the first instance?
All right. For want of time, I would still like to take your thoughts on this very issue very fast, in just a few minutes. Just tell us, the Dangote versus Pengassan story, many persons are waded in. Sanusi, Kuka, Ote, Peter's side, others, and they're saying that unionism is not a license to cripple economy. They are trying to say that, okay, so unionism that you're fighting against, I mean, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and other of their incorporations, that you're fighting unionism is not actually to cripple your economy. It's not to cripple your work ethics and all of the things you do. What do you make of this in just a few words?
Workers' rights is necessary. Nigeria happened to be a member of the International Labour Organization, which is an arm of the United Nations. So workers have the right to agitate and demand for what? Better pay, better working condition, better working environment. So for now, if workers are demanding their right for their right, I don't see it as a conspiracy against the state. Though the government might feel that they are trying to hold the nation to ransom, though strike will normally affect the economy. There is no gainsaying about it. Without missing words, it will be difficult for you not to have a strike in a country like us called Nigeria. Do you know why? Government will make a promise and government often fail to implement those promises. That is what is actually prompting a lot of strike in this country. Most of those strikes ought to have been averted by government itself.
Thank you, Bosa Luma Elfino Ignatius, this morning for your thoughts this morning. You've made some valid points that I hope the government is listening to. Thank you very much this morning. Nigerians, thank you for staying tuned. Up next is The Big Story with Yemi. You want to know what the big story is about? Please join us again after this break.